Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My very special guest today is I'm going to call him my good friend Scotty Barnhart. He's the director of the Count Basie Orchestra, one of the most iconic and well-known bands and longest running history of a band. What year was it? 1920?
35.
35. Where did I get 20? I think that's maybe when he was in another band. Count Basie.
Yeah.
So that's do the math for me, Scotty. How many years now?
88.
88 years.
Yeah.
Thanks. My toes don't go up to that much. I'm counting my fingers and my toes. That's incredible. You got a new album out, Basie Swings the Blues. It's out on September 15th. You just listen to it coming back from the break and going to the break, and we're going to continue to play excerpts from the album, giving you a little sneak peek. It's a lot of fun. Talk about dance and every other emotion. This album puts you through it. All right, let's talk about the album a little bit.
All right.
So it was. I'm sure you're going to argue this, but it's been said it's your vision to merge the classic Count Basie sound with authentic blues by bringing in the help of this all-star lineup that you brought in. Just incredible lineup. I'll let you mention them again when you here. But where'd you get the idea, Scotty?
Well, in 2019, Basie was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame by the Blues Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee, during their Blues Awards ceremony. So I had to go to Memphis and accept the award. As a matter of fact, it's right behind me. Oh no, here it is, right here actually. On the floor here. There it is.
We gotta get that hung up.
Yeah, man. I know. I got to put it on the wall back here.
Your wall's too full. Everybody, check it out.
I know that.
Check this interview out on YouTube. You'll see Scotty's in. I don't know. Is this are you on campus there? This is where you.
No, this is my office. I'm sorry. No, I'm at home. No, I'm at home. This is my piano. I'm in my living room. My piano is in my dining room area.
Well,
so this is dining room.
Your piano is in your dining room area.
Yeah, I put the piano. They put the piano here. Yeah.
So, what happened? Priorities are.
Oh, well, of course, you got to have a piano.
So the wall behind you is just absolutely full of awards. So you got to check this out check out Scotty's dining room with his piano and his music sheets, and it just looks like
there's a
place.
Big poster Basie right there. You can see the big poster. Yeah. I got Louis Armstrong here. I got Miles. I got Duke. I got Bird. You can't really see those, but yeah. So this is just where I work on music and everything.
Who's the lady in the yellow?
Now the lady and the gentleman back there, if they can see that's my late uncle and my aunt. He was an artist. He painted those.
Oh wow.
So and that was done. He did those back in the 50s. I'm actually named after him. His name is William Terrell, but that's my aunt Grace and my uncle William.
Handsome people.
Yeah, he painted those. So when he passed away,
I like those. Yeah,
when he passed away, I inherited that. He did about 50 paintings, so I think I have 4 or 5 in here, something like that. Anyway, but in 2019, Basie was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame, so I had to go to Memphis, and you had to give a speech and all of that. But while I was there, they asked me if I would be a presenter at the Blues Awards, which is like the Grammys for the blues, side of things. So at my table while I was sitting, they sat me right next to Bobby Rush. And it's a big round table with a bunch of people. It was me, Bobby Rush, and Muddy Waters' son. I can never remember his first name. It starts with a K. I can never remember his name. Anyway, while I'm there, it just dawned on me. I was like, man, I'm around all of these. This is what we need to record. This is who we need to record with. Because Basie's a blues-based orchestra. Always been. Everybody knows that. But he had never done a record based on the Delta blues or the sound of the early blues with the electric guitar. You know what I mean? He'd never done that. You would have thought somebody would have done that by now, but they hadn't done it. So that's kind of what the idea was. But the problem was there was no recorded precedent for it. No one had ever done what I was thinking about trying to do, so I couldn't go to iTunes or YouTube or find a recording to study to say, that's what we need to sound like.
Isn't that better though?
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah. Yeah. So
you created it.
Yeah. So I could kind of hear it in my mind. I could kind of hear it, a little bit. And so this went on for about 8-9 months. I'm trying to figure out, man, how can I, and all of a sudden, on the very day that COVID shut everything down, it was like March 20th of 2020, right around there, where everything finally just shut down, that night we had a concert we had to do, a private wedding reception. that we had to do that. We almost canceled because nobody wanted to fly. As a matter of fact, 6 or 7 of the guys refused to fly because they didn't know what was happening with the germs and catching it and stuff.
Right.
But
we didn't know anything.
Nothing. All right. So we decided. I'm part of a management team. We decided, well, we don't want to cancel the gig. And the only reason we didn't cancel is that the people that were getting married decided to cut the wedding party down from 80 to 20. So they eliminated 60 people to make it, small and more intimate. So we said, okay, well, if it won't be that many people, just 20 of them and 20 of us, we can chance it. So we did it. We went and did the gig and everything, and we were at the wedding, and so it was for a very, very, very successful businessman, very successful guy, at his house, 7,500 acre ranch, by the way. So we're there, and the only thing they really wanted for the groom and the bride, they wanted us to play Sinatra's version, Quincy Jones's arrangement of "Fly Me to the Moon." So they played on the moon. When they landed on the moon, they wanted to play that wanted us to play that for the first dance. No problem. So we played that and they're dancing. So when they finished dancing, the groom comes over to the stage and I go over and I said, "Yeah, can I help you with something?" He said, "Yeah. Do you mind if I sit in with the band?" So any band leader tell you when somebody comes and says that, it means one or two things. Either they can't play at all and they just want to show out in the trunk or something. They just want to show off in front of their friends, or they really know they can play. So I said, well, I had to think real quick. I said, yeah, okay, because it's his house. Nobody's there. Nobody's going to put it on YouTube or nothing. I said, sure, no problem. So
you hadn't cashed the check yet, so you're like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he said, boy, that's great because I just bought a 1962 Gibson. Now I did not know that's a $50,000 guitar. That should have gave me a clue right there. I didn't know what was about to happen. So he goes to get his guitar. I get the sound guy to come over so we can set him up so he can, be heard and all of that. So when he comes back, he has his tux on, has the guitar around his neck. He walks on the stage, and I said, well, what do you want to play? He said, well, how about some blues? I said, sure, that's fine. And I said, well, what key do you want? He said, it don't matter to me. I said, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something's about, because when somebody says it doesn't matter, that means he can play.
Okay.
He said, don't matter to me. I said, okay. So I knew something was about to happen. I didn't know what, but I knew something was about to happen. And I'm not even thinking about this blues thing. That's not even in my mind. I hadn't even thought about it a week or two. So anyway, I call the key a G, and I count the blues off in a medium tempo, just medium. And man, let me tell you something, Jeremiah, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. When he started to play the guitar, electric guitar, he sounded like every blues guitarist in history rolled into one.
Wow.
I ain't never in my life heard anything like that up to that point. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I'm looking at this guy, man, he's a mid-60s guy, clean cut, playing like, I'm like, what the? And so I'm listening, and then I realized it was just him in the rhythm section. I said, I got to get the horns to play. So I told the horns, I said, saxophones, okay, go ahead and do a riff behind him. And the trumpets, go start doing riffs. So then the saxes started doing a riff behind him, all 5 saxes, harmonized, beautiful. Then the trombones came in. They did a riff against the saxes. Then the trumpet's job is harder because now they got to do a riff against the bones of the saxes. So the trumpets came in. And when all of that stuff came together and was happening, I said, oh, shoot, this is what I've been hearing. This is it. Oh. This is what the record is. I finally had it. I finally heard it. That was the moment I knew, okay, I know what I got to do. I know what we got to do. This is it. So that was the catalyst for it.
That lightning bolt.
It was a billion lightning bolts, man. I couldn't hardly sit still. And the people that were listening to it, they were screaming. He was just wet. And believe it or not, I have video of it too. He sent me a video later. I have it on video. So I never erase that video. I never lose it. But that set the solid foundation of me understanding, okay, this is what's possible to do. And basically, again, it's really simple. We do what we do, and they just do what they do, and you just put the two together. That's why the record works. And so what happened, then I got in touch with John Burk. I got in touch with the guy Sam Beeler, who's our sponsor and with the foundation that pays for everything. And the gentleman who was the guitarist, he also was in on the initial meetings because he was going to help us with it, help us to do it. Anyway, long story short, we got it done. We got the planning together. I went through about 400 or 500 songs. I started immersing myself in more books about the history of the blues. My girlfriend and I even flew to Mississippi, man, and to drive through the Mississippi Delta to try to find a photo to take for the cover. So some of those photos that are in the album artwork are ones that I took in Mississippi, you know. And so we did a bunch. I did a bunch of research, and then we started figuring out who would be the best guest artists, you know. And I had to go through all of the songs. I chose all of the songs. I had to figure out what songs would be best, how to balance it right. And then, luckily for us, when I was at the Memphis thing to do the thing to get the award for Basie, the guitarist who was in the orchestra in Basie, when I first joined in 1993, is a guy named Charlton Johnson. He was playing the role of Freddie Green, the acoustic guitar, you know. But when he left the orchestra a few years after that, 96 or 97, he went on the road with Bobby Blue Bland. So he became a straight blues, you know. So he was another person that was very important. And I tossed some ideas back and forth. So I knew I was going to have him involved. So to have Charlton on the recording, somebody that played acoustic guitar in the orchestra for 10 years, then to go to one of the top blues bands in the world with Bobby Blue Bland for another 10 years or more. Now, these are how you get the right people. So one of the things that I did for him is when I knew I wanted to write something original for the recording. So it features him. It's called the Patton Basie Shuffle. And my idea was, what would it have sounded like if the great early blues guitarist Charlie Patton had walked into a club or somewhere and Basie was playing and he sat in with the band? What would that sound like? So I wrote that around Charlton, and that's the only instrumental. It's only one of two instrumentals on there, but it's the only original piece on the thing. So that's kind of how it started. And everybody that I called, George Benson, I called up George. So yeah, of course I do it. I called up Buddy Guy. Yeah, I do it. Everybody we called said yeah.
Well, let's talk about them when we come back in the last break. But I honestly, if you could see me with that story you just told, I was literally on the edge of my seat. And have you told this guy? There's two things that struck me about that story. Number one, that there was the ghost in a way of Count Basie right there, right? You let him sit in, and you were like, but all right, you know, come on. You had no idea. And
no idea.
And what happened? What came out of it? Look at this great new album. Like, you never know. Isn't it strange how life is? You say no to something, and if you said, you never know what might have happened, but you said yes.
Exactly right.
And you've got. Did you let this guy? Did you let him know that he inspired?
I didn't know. Yeah, I did. I mentioned it in the liner notes. So when he sees the liner notes, and I'm gonna send a copy, he'll know. I put his name there. I put his name there and everything. I had to thank him, because if it had not been for him doing that, for that situation right there, you know, who knows? It might not have ever happened, or it could have happened at a later date. But it happened exactly how it was supposed to happen.
That was a cool story. Scotty Barnhart's my special guest. He's the director of the Count Basie Orchestra, where you're listening to their new album throughout the show here, the interview today. We're having a lot of fun. It's he's brought in the world's biggest blues icons, and we're not understating that at all. They joined the Count Basie Orchestra for an amazing historic recording. Basie Swings the Blues. I don't know if you can pre-save it, pre-order it, but do it now so you don't forget Basie Swings the Blues. You're going to have just a great fall going into September with this new album. It's available September 15th. It has Buddy Guy, Bobby Rush, Keb Mo, Robert Cray, George Benson, Shemkia Copeland, Ledisi, Mr. Sipp, Lauren Mitchell, Bettye LaVette, and Charlie Musselwhite. At the end, coming up here, actually, in about one more break, we've got I'm a Woman featuring Shemkia Copeland, Buddy Guy, and Charlie Musselwhite. It's streaming right now, and do not go anywhere. We will be right back with more with Scotty Barnhart and the Count Basie Orchestra.
Right.
Okay, we're close. So